All the Embark Studios related news has been about the finals lately, and deservedly so, but as part of the recent earnings call for Nexon, Embark's majority shareholder, a short sneak peek video was released for Embark's second game, Ark Raiders. I do cover both of Embark's shooter games on this channel, so let's fill in some time while we wait for the finals and check that video out, and also talk about some possible dates for the Ark Raiders roadmap. G'day, Rockhound here! During the Nexon earnings call on November 9th, we learned that Embark Studios are readying Ark Raiders for an upcoming beta, which given the imminent release of the finals is quite likely to take place in early 2024. Historically, Embark Studios have happened to run their playtests so that they occur between Nexon's earnings calls, which has allowed Nexon to provide updates all the way through. If we take that prior history of playtests and apply it into the future, we might be able to work out an approximate timeline for the launch of Ark Raiders. Now, we know the finals will release sometime between now and the end of 2023, possibly at the Game Awards, so I'd expect the Ark Raiders beta to be around the end of January, to give Embark enough time to make sure that the finals is running well, but not so late that it would be after the next Nexon earnings call in February. With the Ark Raiders closed alpha having been under a full NDA and Nexon not hugely talking the beta up, I reckon the upcoming beta will be a closed playtest but without an NDA, just like the closed betas for the finals. That would also allow Nexon to report on both the finals first month or two and the Ark Raiders beta at their February 9 earnings call. Then we could guess we get an open beta for Ark Raiders around late April, with the next Nexon earnings call being in May. If we assume that from the lessons learned from the finals playtests, Embark will only need 2 betas for Ark Raiders, that would allow them time to potentially launch the game at Summer Games Fest on June 8, with Nexon reporting on its first 2 months' performance in August. Seems like a reasonable ask, I reckon. Let's maybe come back to this in the future to see how far off the money I was. Okay, let's now take a look at the sneak peek video we got for Ark Raiders, which runs a little under a minute long. It's labelled as pre-alpha gameplay, so we might be looking at some footage that didn't make it into the trailer Embark released for the game's closed alpha. It opens with a shot of the front of Alcantara Power Plant, which is a derelict and badly damaged hydroelectric dam. You can see the dam's location here on this map of Calabretta that Embark Studios previously released during a developer tech talk back in March this year, along with this better image of the dam from almost on top of it. If you want to get to know the Ark Raiders locations better, I go through all the images from the tech talk and pinpoint their locations on the map in the video linked above. Anyhow, to the dam's left we can see the flank of the main stratovolcano on the map, and maybe a large damaged Ark ground machine here with red stained water of the Red Lakes area in the foreground. One thing we see here, and it's worth noting this throughout the video, is the number of shortwave or mobile antennas there are around the map. Previously we narrowed down the Ark invasion timeline as probably occurring around the late 1970s or early 1980s, but all these antennas look more modern than that, so perhaps the lore of the game includes the survivors of the Ark invasion building these over the years in order to communicate. The narration talks about lights in orbit with no home, referring to the Ark machines, which I've previously assumed is an acronym for alien robotic craft. We then move to a player atop the roof of a building nestled beside some rocky tors that could be part of the Alcantara area behind the dam, seen here. Another shortwave antenna here as well. The narrator continues, I've seen Ark roaming the streets of the buried city, and then we see a smaller airborne Ark machine sporting dual weapons and patrolling between buildings. You get a pretty good close-up view of the machine and its drone-like propellers. A buried city sounds pretty cool, and we've seen some images previously of buildings swamped in sand. I really hope the game includes some decent built-up areas where we can move through the back streets and buildings as we keep an eye out for other players and Ark machines. Then we're inside an industrial building with some sort of faction mark on the wall. Our first look at some PvP action in this video with a player who's using binoculars about to receive an ice axe to the back of the head. These might be some lootable weapons on the tables here. I really like Embark's attention to detail, making the buildings look like they've been uninhabited for a few decades. They've kind of got that Chernobyl abandoned city feel about them. Overall, the environment looks so immersive. We switch to a third third-person view of our player engaging another under moonlight, with the opponent apparently being caught off guard by the attack. The flames here don't look all that different from fire features used in the finals, which isn't really that surprising. The cosmetics for these characters are so good, a real NASA punk look. The weapon here looks like some sort of improvised Sten-style machine gun with what looks like maybe a gas canister on top, and their opponent seems to be sporting a shotgun. And note that these lights are on here, so this dystopian environment definitely has a power supply in some locations. Then a daytime attack from behind in the wetland area, which is located behind the Alcantara Dam. The water looks pretty shallow here, so maybe we won't see any swimming in the game. But then the map does have a coastline, so that remains to be seen. The player on the left has a shotgun this time, and the weapon on the right looks a bit odd, maybe another type of shotty. On the far right we see a geodesic dome, which we've seen in these images before and whose purpose is unknown, but I might have an answer to that later in the video. Still in the wetland area, we see a player taking on a four-legged ground-based arc machine, certainly the smallest of the completely ground-based machines that we've seen. The player is also getting shot at from above, so they might be heading into the House of Pain here. They also carry an ice axe on their back, so maybe ice axes are the base melee weapon in the game. The word on the protective collar of their suit reads Guardia, which means guard in Italian, which also fits with the Italian place names around the map, so this seems to be a consistent part of the game's lore. I think these light-coloured objects here are water splashing up as they move around, and our character's weapon looks like it's partly electrically driven with wires here and looks like some sort of rifle. The arc machine also has an electrical charge flowing from around its underside before it fires a bolt of electricity in our character's direction. In the background, these umbrella-like structures are the tops of those geodesic domes we saw earlier, and further off a high-tension power line is on the ridgeline. Electricity seems to play an important role in the lore as well, with ground cables seen in many other images. We then have a much more peaceful scene in the wetlands, such a great looking environment from the Embark team. This player approaches another airborne arc machine. This one looks like quite a light version without the twin guns mounted underneath. Again, look how great the environment looks here. The devs really seem to be nailing that rundown and overgrown industrial look, and the weapon has that gas canister on top of it again. Then we move to a player running past a fire in a tunnel, possibly carrying an over and under shotgun. We can see the flames from behind peeking through between the barrels. The flames look great here, although my personal preference would be to have a bit more smoke associated with the fires, as I reckon that would add to the atmosphere, no pun intended, even if it lowers the visibility. Back to the wetland area with such lush foliage, then we have a good look at those geodesic structures, which look much more like greenhouses here, especially with the ventilation windows you can see here. We move to a player who has what looks like a video camera mounted on their arm, who is dangerously close to that four-legged ground-based arc machine. You can see here how much mechanical flexibility these AI-driven environmental opponents have as they move around. It also seems to have brought down a chunk of tree as it passes through, so I'm interested to see how much destruction Arc Raiders will have given the success of this feature in the finals. Then we get a grainy cinematic shot of a player as they watch the trail of an arc machine entering the atmosphere. Interestingly, the player does look like they're sitting on something, almost in a motorcycle rider pose, so I'm wondering if speeders are going to still be a form of transport in the game. We have seen concept art for those before. Also see what looks like snow here in the background, and this doesn't look like the main volcano we've seen before, so maybe this is a new part of the map with a cooler climate that we've not yet seen. And then we see the Arc Raiders logo and the video is done. After how good the finals open beta's been, I cannot wait to see more of Arc Raiders, and I'll be providing you any updates about the game as they're announced. Do you feel the same way? Has the quality of the finals grown your interest in Arc Raiders as well? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video to the end. Do the usual YouTube business if you want to see more about Embark Studios games from me from now on, and give a like or comment as you see fit. Enjoy the rest of your day. Kia kaha, stay strong.
Everybody knows the world ain't right. Down on your knees, get up and fight.